Good morning everybody, my name's Steve Blackburn. So I work for Leeds City Council and I lead on open data. I'm doing the job for about 4 years now. Over that time I've also picked up the work on managing the what was Leeds Data Mill, is now Data Mill North. And more recently I've picked up the work on leading on our innovation labs, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. So I work in the information governance team, and in terms of open data, I think depending on different councils, it kind of it lands in different areas. I think the fact that for us it's in information governance, I think has been the right approach. I always remember a meeting that I went to about 4 years ago when we were first talking about kicking off this agenda, and there was somebody in there from our legal services team who said really, we should only be focusing on opening up data that is legislative, that we absolutely have to do, and nothing more. And then there were other people at the other end of the table saying, just stick everything out, I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. And I, as I do for most things, kind of sit on the fence, and I said, right, okay, what I think is we should push it as much as we can out, but let's make sure we do it in the right way. So we need to publish as much as we can, be open and transparent, all the rest of it. But I don't want to wake up one morning and find a load of children's names all over the internet and that shouldn't be published. And then it kind of unpicks all the hard work that we've done. So I think, yes, let's be as open and transparent as we can, but make sure we do it in a methodical way. And so on the back of that, we created our open data principles, some publishing guidelines which we promote to other organisations and services around the council, and anonymisation guidelines as well, working with colleagues within information governance. And all that is published on the data mill for you to reuse, cut and paste and share. But it's important that when we do open up our data, that actually it makes sense. The government data sets that they encourage us to open up are very sort of policy based, sometimes politically biased, you might say, and therefore we found that the data sets that the government was asking us to publish are perhaps not the data sets that we're getting asked for in Leeds, and it might be different in Newcastle, it might be different in Bristol as well. But we were getting asked, for example, for data sets such as accidents in Leeds or footfall data in Leeds city centre. Those kind of data sets aren't part of the government agenda, which I can kind of understand why, because like I say, they might not be of interest in Bristol, for example. But our approach was, let's deal with the legislative stuff first, let's get that out of the way, let's ensure that we're compliant, and then let's focus on opening up the data sets that we think people that's of interest for people here in Leeds. But when we do open the data up, it's important that they are understood, that it's meaningful, that it provides value. So I sometimes see myself as a bit of a gatekeeper, and I think I'm not really a techie person, to be honest with you. And I think that if the data doesn't make any sense to me, then the chances are when we publish it, it's not going to make any sense to anybody else. So I kind of see myself as a bit of a gatekeeper sometimes before we do actually publish it. So our approach has not just has been that we don't just want to create a council platform. Leeds Data Mill, when we first started, we had conversations as to how we go about this. We were publishing some data on leeds.gov.uk to start off with. But increasingly we were saying that actually, Leeds City Council commissions more and more services out. Services are being picked up by the third sector, private sector and others. And actually if we want to understand the city better, if we want to see an holistic view of the city, then it's not just about council data really. We're just one small piece in the jigsaw, and increasingly a smaller and smaller piece in the jigsaw. So we need to work with others. And we need to encourage them to open up their data in the same way that we're doing at Leeds City Council. And I think working with others can also help us to share skills, work collaboratively, get best value out of the data, and can also enable us to tap into other funding perhaps that might be available. I found recently that I applied for some local government association funding just before Christmas to run some innovation labs, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And I think it's the fact that it wasn't just a Leeds City Council initiative, it was the fact that we were encouraging other local authorities and third sector and service users, service providers. It was about working with all of those people. It wasn't just something run by Leeds City Council that enabled us to grab that funding. We also recently, I'll just plug ourselves, we also in November won the ODI Publisher of the Year award, and we were up against the likes of DEFRA and the United Nations. Now we're the Data Mill website's publishing or signposting about 500 datasets. DEFRA, I think, are publishing 8,000. And I think the United Nations are publishing a fair old chunk as well. So it's not, and I think the reason we won that award, it's not just about how much you're doing, it's about how you're doing it and who you are working with. And it was the collaborative approach that I think enabled us to win that award. And I think we've got about 50 odd publishers now that we're working with who are either publishing or signposting data on the data. So there's just a quick, a very quick snapshot, and that probably needs updating really, because we've got a lot more since. The kind of organisations who we've been working with and who are on the data mill. We've now, as Liverpool Council came over to Leeds yesterday, and they're going to start using the data mill, as will Wakefield very soon. So I think that makes 9 local authorities in the north of England. And the approach has been, certainly the approach started off as Leeds, and it was about, it's not just about Leeds Council data, let's encourage others to open up as well. And then increasingly I was thinking, well, why are councils setting up their own open data sites? Let's work collaboratively. It makes it easier for us from a local authority perspective, but also I think from when I speak to developers, they don't want to be going to, half a dozen or a dozen websites finding data from here, there and everywhere. They want to go to one place. And increasingly what we need to do in future is work together so that when we're opening up data, that we're all opening up the same kind of data in the same format, which can then be easily compared and reused. That's a big hurdle to get over, but in terms of the data mill, it's not just about the data. It's never just been about the data as far as I'm concerned. It's about working in the digital community, it's about building a community of data and non-data people. And when we do our innovation labs, it's about getting all the relevant stakeholders around the table. And it's about understanding the data better from wherever that comes from to help improve citizens' lives and improve communities. So the homepage, for example, which is this is the sort of third iteration of the data mill, and you'll notice whilst there is you can't really see it from there is a link there to go to the data, but actually the thing that we're promoting is blogs and events that are in Leeds and across the north now, and also the latest products that have come from the data that we've opened up. My view is that even if you're not remotely interested in data, I would like to think there's something on the data mill that you might find of interest, even if it's just the Leeds Bins app, which reminds you when to put your bin out. You don't need to know that it's data that's generating that app, but ultimately it's providing a service which helps you. So and I'll talk a little bit more detail about this. So the innovation labs. So like I say, to start off with, I was just the lead on open data. And working with others in the council, we created our innovation, 6-month innovation pathway, if you like. And the idea here was, what data can we open up which can help us address a particular problem or issue? Now, from my point of view as Open Data Lead, this was a great driver, because I can talk to services in the council who can, they'll open data up because they think it's a good thing to do for openness and transparency, and for perhaps might reduce their freedom of information requests. But there is still culture change. We're not there. We're working towards becoming open by default, but still a long way to go. And the idea here was, we went to services who have identified a particular problem or issue, may not have otherwise opened up their data, but actually if they do, we can use that data to work towards addressing that particular problem, which helps them and helps their customers and helps communities. So for me, for Open Data Lead, it was a really good driver for us to open up more data. And I think a lot of the data sets that Leeds City Council's published, I think we're over 240 or something now, I think a good chunk of them are because of the innovation lab approach. So like I say, what we do there is we come up with speak to services who have identified a particular problem or issue, and then we work with them over a 3-month period to identify what data they collect, what data they hold, and what data we can open up and publish, so that when we're in an environment like this, we can all have a good discussion about what the problem is and come up with some solutions. After 3 months, and we're all set to go, we have a 1-day innovation lab. In the morning, we work in a group setting. So we have, on each table, we have a developer, and we have then service users, providers, might be some third sector organisations, whoever else is involved. And we have a mix of people on the table. And in the morning, we all discuss the problem, the brief. By the afternoon, we've come up with some different ideas from each table. And then the developers work independently in the afternoon to work on a prototype solution. I've seen over the course, it's really quite impressive what people can do over 3 or 4 hours tops. I've seen very basic apps created, websites. It might just be a PowerPoint presentation that says, look, this is my vision, this is what it would look like if I were to take this forward. And then what we do at the end of the day, we all reconvene, and there's a bit of a, I suppose, Dragon's Den kind of question and answer. 4 presentations at the end for each solution, and we can question, well, does it do this, can it do that? And then within a couple of weeks, back in the office, we will reconvene as a service and say, right, were any of those ideas any good? Do we want to take any of those forward? Work with that developer on an individual basis, and then pilot it in the real world, if you like, with citizens in the community. And then we've got a small amount of funding, small budget, where we work with a particular developer to get to a point where we've got a minimum viable product that we can test in the real world. So the most mature of those products, and we've done a few, the most mature is the Leeds Bins app. So the original brief for this one was actually, it wasn't about putting your bin out, it was about how can we get people to recycle more. That was the problem that the waste team have identified. We increasingly get fined for putting waste into landfill. But actually, if we can get people to recycle more, we get paid for that. So we need fines to go down and the recycling to go up, and then we've got a win-win. So we opened up our recycling centre information. We opened up our route data. That's available on the data mill. And on the back of that, we held an innovation lab, and the Leeds Bins app was created using that data and still pulls through the relevant data on a regular basis to keep that populated and update everybody's phones. But also, I mean, there are a couple of other benefits from that app as well. We were paying, I hear different figures, but it was something like £50,000 to £100,000 every Christmas to send out letters to tell people of Christmas collection changes. We've got 350,000 residential properties in Leeds, so that's a lot of printing, a lot of second-class stamps. We need to think of other ways of doing that now. We no longer do that. So if we can get as many people to download this app, we can get those same messages through a different channel and save money. Additionally, we get an awful lot of complaints, queries, whatever, to our contact centre. Why didn't you collect my bin today? I'm guessing some of those are genuine. The truck has passed and missed that particular bin. Sometimes maybe people put it out on the wrong day, the wrong colour. Maybe they've just missed it. Maybe just put it out a little bit late. Again, this app allows them to get a notification the night before using the phone's calendar to remind them. They can have another reminder the morning of the collection as well. So actually, there's lots of benefits for us opening up that data, working with the developer and creating the app. Now, following some successful testing, I think we wanted initially about 1,000 downloads, and after a month or 2 months, I think we got a couple of thousand, so that we were quite happy with how that had gone. And we decided to extend the pilot on the run-up to Christmas and really promote and market it. Just to say, this is not a Leeds City Council app. We're working with developers outside of the council, and it's not branded Leeds City Council. We're facilitating, the creation of that product, but ultimately, it belongs to somebody else, and it's about us kind of working with the digital community. And if they can then sell that to Birmingham and to Bristol and all the rest of it, then good luck to them, and that's what we want. That's what we want to happen. But like I say, we did some further testing right up to Christmas, some for the piloting, and I think we're up to about 15,000 downloads now. So I think, and I think that exceeded expectations from the waste services team, so much so that they decided to contract with the developer to continue to support and maintain that app for another 2 years. So they're obviously pleased with the results there. So that's the Leeds Bins app, and like I say, that's the most mature. I just want to pick up on another couple as well. So because I will say, this is kind of research and development, if you like, and I think we're trying to change the culture at Leeds City Council, that actually it's okay to try stuff. Some things will work and some things might not work, and if they don't work, that's okay. You know not to do that again, and you know to try something else. So CareView was another one that's progressed nicely. So this is the focus here was on reducing or identifying, I should say, social isolation. So this is this doesn't use open data as such, but generates data that we can reuse back in the council. So the idea here is that this app will be used by people such as postal workers, care workers, police, fire perhaps. They will log into the app, and people who are out in the community, if they spot something that they consider perhaps might be something, might identify perhaps social isolation, they click on a map, and if enough people click in the same area, it might be something, it might be sort of milk bottles stacking up, let's say, or unkempt garden, or post hanging out the letterbox, something like that. If enough people click on the map in the same area, then it generates a heat map, which we get back in the council, and then we can, rather than us kind of taking a blanket approach, if you like, at a time of limited resources, we can then take more a directed approach and maybe send a social worker out to look at that particular area and see if there's any problems there that have been identified. Because everything's not entirely rosy, I'll just give you another final example. So there in the middle we've got GSOH, Great Sense of Home, That was a website, and again, this was about looking at focusing on our age-friendly agenda. Actually a really good idea, but would need further development, I think, on this one. So the idea here was, how can we help older people ensure that they're living in the best place for them? Now, the idea was based on a dating website kind of format. It asks you a number of questions, and depending on your answers, it then suggested, well, you've answered it this way, here's the best place for you to live. We actually, when we went out and spoke to communities, we got some good feedback. Actually, what we got told was, yeah, it's a great idea, but I'm quite happy where I live, thank you very much. Good for people, perhaps, if you're not from Leeds and you've never been to Leeds, and it's so actually people, not older people, but anybody, if you've decided you've got a new job, want to move to Leeds and haven't got a clue where to live, that's actually pretty decent idea, because it's kind of pre-Zoopla, if you like. Zoopla tells you, once you've decided on a house, it can kind of tell you what's around there, but how do you know where to go in the first place if you don't know the city? And that kind of gives you some idea. So it's good in that respect for anybody to use. But what we were getting back from the communities is, you know, well, my friends, my network, everything's, you know, I know people here, so I'm quite happy here. What I don't know is the community groups that are around me, and where can I go, what's going on. I know little bits and pieces, but I might not be entirely connected. So we kind of, that would require further investment to sort of have a dual role, if you like. One that says, I have a clue about Leeds, where should I live? But another one that says, I know about Leeds, I'm happy where I live, but please tell me what's around me. And that's something else that we're constantly having conversations about, community asset mapping, if you like. And I think, and again, that's a big question. I mean, I think it'd be great if we could open up data such as, you know, in terms of community assets, I'm thinking people, places, projects. So if I want to set up a community group, a volunteering group, where can I set that up? What buildings are available to me? What spaces within buildings are available to me? Or if I want to volunteer, what groups are in my area? Which ones can I join? And what do they do and where are they? That data is held by a lot of different people in a lot of different formats. So there's a big, there's a big conversation to be had there in joining all the dots. But that's something that could feed into the flip side of that product if we took that forward. I just want to finish off as well that it's not just about what I found really good in terms of the work that we've done over the last 3 or 4 years is that, you know, we publish our data, and it's not just about Leeds City Council facilitating stuff and local government money and all the rest of it. There's really clever people out there, as you'll be aware, and willing to do stuff in their own time, off their own back, without any intervention from us whatsoever. So the bottom picture there is using our accident data that we published. Somebody off their own back went out there and did a heat map of accident hotspots in Leeds. I picked that up, thought it was great work, forwarded it onto our highways people and said, look what this guy's done, this is something that you might be really interested in. Streetwise Life shows you using some data from the data mill and open data from elsewhere as well. Things that are in the city, you know, where the GPs are, where the hospitals are, where the restaurants are. I think it shows you the accident data up there as well. It's all mapped out, stuff that's gone on in particular areas. And there's something there as well in the middle about library usage and the sort of footfall through libraries as well. So it's not just about us facilitating everything. It's been really useful for us to open up the data and actually get something back as well, which people have done off their own backs. So I think that's about it from me.